Hello, listeners. It is Matthew Tsang here. In a new segment today, I'm joined with our marketing officer, Michelle. Michelle, how are you doing today?
Hey Matt, I'm doing great. How about you?
I just woke up, but I'm feeling amazing that I'm going to have a great day today.
What do you have planned today?
Well, today is my day off, so I'm planning on doing nothing, but probably just like read and just doing nothing, basically.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's a
game.
good idea.
So before we begin, I want to talk about a news that you and I are both familiar with and deeply affected by. The increasing COVID cases in Japan has disallowed audiences from being in the stands cheering for their countries for the supposed 2020 Olympics, which got delayed into 2021. Michelle, what are your thoughts about this? Because I feel like I don't, as a student, I don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel like this COVID case is just continues to affect our life. At some point it's got to end, right?
Yeah, no, I agree for sure because Japan there's like a surge in cases now, and I feel like without the audience, the Olympics is just not the same as before. It's just like I don't even want to watch it anymore because it's just so slow and like I feel like it's still the beginning, nothing much is going on yet, but it's just not as exciting.
Right. Like it's sometimes hard to forget like the fans are such an important part of sports. And we sometimes like overlook about the fans. The sports itself can be exciting, balls flying everywhere, people jumping from one place to another, breaking records, breaking legs, whatever it is. I hope they don't break legs because I don't want any athletes to get injured. But the fans are such an important part of like the sports community, and I hated the fact that the 2021 Olympians can't get to experience that, even though they're honoring their country in order to do that. They can't feel like they're actually, quote unquote, honoring their country, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it has a big like mental effect on them too, right?
Yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe without the fans, they don't really have a lot of like the mental game that they have to play around. But who knows, right? Like I know, like the Bucks, they won the NBA Finals like recently, and they had a full packed audience or just fans in general in the Fizzer Forum in Milwaukee. I know. By the way, congrats to Milwaukee fans. And I know that they needed every part of that fan, like just the crowd in general, to support them. And congrats to them. They won the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because if there's an audience, then like you're bound to do better, right? Just like us as musicians, if you perform in front of an audience, your performance is much better than if you were to just practice alone in a room, right? So for sure.
Exactly. Or you know what? Or you can be worse because the nerves start getting into. But the thing is that you need the fans there because it's a different experience, and people screaming and people yelling is just such a environment that you can never experience just by, exactly like you said, being in the practice room.
Yeah, for sure.
So today we have a lot of spicy news to cover. Are you ready, Michelle?
Well, I am ready. I am ready. Yep.
I set up these news, so that's why she's very unsure about this.
Yeah, and these are very interesting news you picked, Matthew.
We'll see about.
Let's get right into it.
Get right into it. All right, we begin with covering Universal Music Group. Vivendi, the parent company of Universal Music Group, spun off 10% of the record label, valued at around $40 billion. Bill Ackman's SPAC company originally intended on buying the company to sell its share in the public market. However, this deal was halted due to, quote unquote, issues raised by the SEC about the transaction. Michelle, could you please clarify for us what a SPAC is and why the SEC would deny this?
Yeah, so from what I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but SPAC stands for Special Purposes Acquisition Company, and it's formed strictly to raise capital through an IPO just for the purpose of buying an existing company. So basically it's a company without any business operations, and it doesn't make any products, it doesn't sell anything. Their only assets are typically the money that's raised in its own IPO. And recently they've become a lot more popular and have been raising a lot of IPO money. And so once the IPO raises capital, the money goes into like a trust account kind of thing until the SPAC's founders or the senior management team or whoever is in charge finds a private company that is seeking to go public through an acquisition, right? So a SPAC merger allows a company to go public and get more capital influx more quickly than it would have through like a conventional IPO. So, and what this has to do with Universal is that basically there was a SPAC that wanted to buy up 10% of Universal. But then after they announced this back in June, the share price of that SPAC has fallen by quite a big amount. It was almost 18%. As Bill Ackman said, this transaction has raised issues with the US Securities and Exchange Commissions, or the SEC. And from their point of view, they're saying that this transaction doesn't meet the New York Stock Exchange SPAC rules. Matthew, what's your take on this? Like, why would the Securities and Exchange Commissions be opposed to this?
Well, recently, like, American regulators have started clamping a lot of, like, they're starting to put their grips very tight on a lot of like financial stuff, things such as like cryptocurrency, so Bitcoin and Ethereum, and also now SPAC, because SPAC is such a new thing. The thing about regulators is that regulators are usually caught off guard by new things. The reason why is rules are set for previous stuff. They're not meant to predict the future, so that's why they're always caught behind. And when SPAC was like extremely like prevalent, especially in like the 2020s, when people started just day trading and stuff, regulators started looking at that and say, wait, we need to regulate this, because you can't just bypass a lot of the regularities and just straight up list your stuff in the public market. And the reason why I said that you could just bypass things, because for listeners who don't know, a special part of SPAC companies is that you're allowed to announce things like future projections that you can't announce in traditional IPOs and also direct listings. So that's the biggest part. That's the biggest benefit of gaining capital from the public markets through SPAC. That's why SPAC is so popular. And so you got a lot of companies unsafe for investors. I mean, there are a lot of recent like SPAC companies that are just not safe. Regulators look at this and say, wait, we need to regulate this because we need to also protect the shareholders. So that was a big part of the reason why SEC kind of jumped in and say, wait, we need to start regulating this. And there's a lot of stuff that they have to go through. And I think Bill Ackman and a lot of the other SPAC companies are probably going to experience this the hard way, slowly but surely.
So you don't think that this has anything to do with the fact that Vivendi is trading in the French stock market, right?
No, I don't think when foreign companies come into like New York in general, they don't, it's not really a thing. It's just as long as like the companies follow the New York like regulations, because they're technically, when you come and enlist, list yourself as a public company in America, you're technically an American company, which means that you have to abide by American business laws. So if they sign up for this, that means they already know that there are, American regulations here at play. So no, I don't think so. I think if that were to come into play, it'll probably be the last thing. I think SEC was looking at this and say UMG problem needs to go through direct listing or just traditional IPOs.
It's just like how ByteDance is trying to get into this US stock market or the Hong Kong stock market.
Yeah.
Hint for news later.
Exactly. It's funny also, like just like regulators in general, like in the past 2 years have been really, really tight on a lot of things. So moving on to the next news that I really want to talk about, but we never really talk about, it's Netflix. Netflix, the streaming giant, beats Wall Street expectations for revenue and new subscribers. However, shares remain extremely tepid. Michelle, what is going on here?
Well. So from what I've seen is that Netflix has had a higher growth last year in 2020 compared to this year. And for quarter two, their subscribers that have added in quarter two has exceeded their own expectations, but it's still missing because they had around 1.5 million more subscribers versus their 1.1 that's expected. However, they're still missing it by a lot, by the 1.7 million that's expected by analysts. So even though the subscriber number is very small, like it probably doesn't mean much in the long run, I think that this quarter was a slower growth compared to around this time last year. And as for their earnings, right, it was almost $3 versus then the $3.14 that was expected by the analysts. And I don't know, what I think is that because Netflix has so much content and they only have, so far they've only got like dramas, movies, and everything that's video related. I guess they want to diversify their content, just like how Disney Plus, right? They have their own merchandising shop, and needless to say, Disney as a company, right? But Netflix purely has video streaming right now, right? And I think right now they're also looking into merchandise with their top shows that's similar to what Disney is doing. So yeah, so I think that's what's going on there. And creating content is really expensive, right? And right now they might just be recycling the content that they already have or are buying up existing content. So yeah, what's your take on this, Matthew?
It's interesting. One thing is that obviously Wall Street has their own expectations, but they also have another layer of expectations that they look at past numbers. Again, Netflix being a fan company, which supposedly it's directly related to being a growth company. If they don't have certain growth met, like if they don't have shocking numbers, Wall Street is just gonna take an eye and just look the other way, because there's just a lot of other investing ideas that they're gonna tap into, rather than looking at Netflix, which they're kind of slowing down. So one more question for you: do you think that this trend will continue to go up? Like, is there like a bullish case for this company to continue to go up? Because from my side, I feel like Netflix is stuck at a bottleneck that they can't quite figure out to continue. I mean, they are a 200 to $300 billion company, which is, no joke. But like, I feel like they're like at a bottleneck. Do you feel like they can continue to go up?
It's a very good question, Matthew. I think Netflix growth has been a lot more last year because of the pandemic, and like now that the pandemic is slowly going away and the economy is recovering, like we have other things to consume, right? We're not Netflix isn't the only thing there, and while everything else has been growing and like diversifying, I feel like Netflix is still kind of in their same little like bubble, right? I mean, and I don't know, for their revenue right now, it's just subscriptions, right? And unless they increase their price for subscriptions, there's nothing else that makes them as like a company more attractive to like, investors or whatnot, right? Unless I don't know, there were rumors going on that they wanted to tap into the gaming space, or like to make new content that's related to that and expand into maybe original films and stuff, or like animation, etc. But I think in the long run, if they don't do anything else other than content, then yeah, what you said, I think they're kind of like stuck.
I mean, you also talked about merchandising. What do you think about that? Like, could they potentially make a bullish case and tell the investors one day, be on the investing panel in a quarterly report and be like, we're going to start doing merchandising? Wall Street investor Michelle Law, what do you think?
First of all, I am not a Wall Street investor, but yeah, what can they merchandise about? Like, there's, I don't know, for example, there's Stranger Things original TV shows, or
are you interested in potentially buying a Queen's Gambit chess? I mean, that sounds like
like a Netflix merchandised one, like Netflix branded chess.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, why if they mark it up to like $50 for one, why can't I just get it from Amazon, right? Like it's just the same like product. It's just Netflix branded.
Maybe
So
how about a Stranger's Thing cosplay? Would you be
like
interested
their
in that?
costumes too. Oh, maybe. Maybe. Maybe if they had some sort of like real life Netflix show experience, that'd be pretty cool.
So moving on, we're going to talk about Spotify, obviously. I know we talk a lot about this company, but this news kind of caught my attention. Eligible TikTok users can now get Spotify Premium for free in selected European countries. Michelle, do you think that this will increase their future revenue after attracting more of a European consumer base? Or do you think that at some point the freemium model needs to stop and start delivering cash for the company?
Well, first of all, do you not think a freemium model is working for them?
I do think it's working for them, but at some point that freemium model has got to convert into cash. That's what I think.
Because I mean, what they're doing to these users is also like a freemium model and like buying them into the idea of like the premium for like 4 months. I think they just give it to them for a few months and then after that it's gone, right? So I think in that way it would work, since if the user is already so used to the convenience of a premium account, then they might just continue for the sake of it, right? So I think in that sense it might expand their consumer base in those countries. Oh, and by the way, the countries were UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, and Turkey. It's interesting that they pick these countries. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool idea because TikTok and Spotify kind of go hand in hand nowadays. Like whatever song you see that's hit on TikTok, right? The next step you'll probably do is go on another music streaming platform and look for the song. So I think Apple already has a deal has had a deal with TikTok a few months ago. Like it's a similar deal where you can get Apple Music for free for how many months as an iOS user. So I think going forward it might bring them more revenue and yeah.
I do agree with the fact that like if you were to be on TikTok, the next thing you'll probably see like on a playlist on like top 100 hot 100 playlist, it'll probably be the song that you just heard because it's been so viral and been played so many times. I do agree with that. The problem that I have with this deal is that I feel like they're so stuck into the idea of we need to grow on consumer base, which is true. Like they do need to grow their consumer base. The problem with growing consumer base is that that's their least profitable product, which is selling music. Because I think when you and I were talking with Jerry, I remember us talking about like the biggest reason why Spotify complains all the time is because they have to pay all these money to rights holders, which are basically so all the complicated metadata stuff, but basically they have to pay all these artists money, and it's like it eats away like 70 to 80% of their top line profit. So that's the reason why I don't like this freemium model, because first, again, you're encouraging more people to listen to more Spotify stuff, but you're not getting money in order to cover up your costs. That's one thing. And even if you convert them into actual consumer base, you're still eating up that 80%. So you're not building up that margin, top line margin. And so that's my biggest problem with this. Obviously, they still have to grow their customer base. But my biggest thing is at some point, they have to look at this customer base, just basically users in general, and say, we need to start looking at different revenue types, such as like, let's grow our advertising stuff and actually compete with a lot of other like top-notch tech companies. For example, Google and Facebook. Why does Google and Facebook get to have 75% of the entire revenue share? Maybe we could eat away like 5 to 10% of that. I mean, that's a lot, but and bump up that top line so that between the top line and also just like the cost in general, they can widen the gap so that they can become more profitable. So that's why like I have something against the freemium model in general. but I could definitely understand why they're doing this. Like you said, like Apple is doing this, so I feel like they for them they kind of have to one up that. You know, Apple is doing this just because they want to attract more iOS users. Like really for them, Apple Music is just like a thing, a service to attract more users. For them, literally Apple Music is not generating cash for them if it's a business alone itself. It's just helping them like attract users to buy more iPhones. That's about it. So Spotify's got to look at this. And also, by the way, Spotify also has to pay Apple because they're on the App Store. So at some point, we have to look at this and say, wait a minute, when is Spotify really going to start generating cash and more revenue and more on the top line instead of being eaten away at cost? Because that's their biggest problem, no matter which way you cut it. That's just the biggest problem, in my opinion. All right, Michelle, I know in our notes here you want to go into some lightning round for like some music news. So why don't you tell us some?
All right, I almost forgot about that. Okay, yeah. So this lightning round is just two very quick news that's been going up lately. So now this is Sunday, July 25th. So first is there's going to be a new collaborative jazz pop album that's going to drop later this year between Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett. And they also have two upcoming shows in early August, which marks Tony Bennett's final onstage performances in New York City and to honor his 95th birthday. That's pretty cool. And second of all, Justin Bieber made history on Tuesday, July 20th as the youngest solo artist to ever hit 100 entries on the Billboard Hot 100 chart at the age of 27, at the ripening age of 27. And he overtook Drake, who held the previous title back in 2015. So yeah, that's the lightning round for music news.
You know, I literally haven't heard anything from Lady Gaga ever since, I don't know, like several years ago. And then she came out with a single with Ariana Grande like last year or something. And then now she's doing another one. So like, it really, I don't know why this woman should just retire and do her fashion show stuff, honestly. I mean, if she really wants to make art, by all means, go for it. But like, if I were her, I'll just be like lazing at my home, like putting weird makeups and experiencing like the other side of art.
But she wants to be out there, you know? It's Lady Gaga. She's a queen, you know?
I mean, right now, that's debatable, but... And also JB. You know what was funny is that every time... I remember during our middle school, we hated the guys always hated Justin Bieber so much.
Yeah, and the girls always loved Justin Bieber. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now it's like Justin Bieber is like a universally like, maybe still some guys still have like a love-hate relationship, but like I really appreciate like just like Justin Bieber's like transformation in general, because he went through some really tough times. He even got burned like in public. Yeah. He got burned like to hell.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like physically show that burned.
Oh no.
But no, yeah,
I meant he got flamed. But yeah.
Yeah.
He got flamed terribly by Snoop Dogg and just people in general, just like stars in general. And you know, he made a really good comeback, and I'm so glad. I know he dated a model. He's wearing Crocs. He's living the life. He's representing my Croc community. Gosh. That's all that matters.
Oh and God, I saw your post about Crocs. Anyway,
he doesn't love Crocs. Do you have anything else for us, or are we just
No, that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, listeners, for listening to our news segment, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.